7 or +7.
Adrenal off, .74.
We are. Can the American people change Washington, D.C.?
In Washington today, you cannot fix Washington. Washington was created in deception starting in 1868. The 41st Congress changed Washington to a corporate-style government and gave it an area of jurisdiction of 100 square miles, which is known as Washington, D.C., or the District of Columbia today. In 1974, some of the land was taken back from Washington, and today Washington is 68 square miles. Anyone who claims to be a citizen of the United States, under legal definition of the United States, is pledging their allegiance to Washington, D.C. or the District of Columbia. They are not Americans. You can be a U.S. citizen or you can be an American, but you can't be both. It's impossible. Anyone who claims to be a citizen of the United States, under legal definition of the United States, is pledging their allegiance to Washington, D.C. or the District of Columbia. They are not Americans. You can be a U.S. citizen or you can be an American, but you can't be both. It's impossible. The total jurisdictional authority and territory of the corporation in Washington is the District of Columbia, period. It has never been legislated any differently than that. So, why is the District of Columbia ruling over the states in America? Well, they're doing it, go back to the implied consent that we talked about earlier. They are using the implied consent of the people because we are not saying no. You can throw everybody out of Washington. You can vote every single one out. You can change the president, change the entire Congress, and you cannot change Washington. It was created in deception. It has operated in deception since 1868, and nothing you do to change it. There's nothing you can do to change it. You can't change Washington. Washington is what it is. A leopard cannot change its spots. They cannot turn over a new leaf because the laws are designed for them to deceive, lie, and cheat the American people. And we can document that.
How did the American people lose the original constitutional republic?
Well, first of all, everybody thought we still had the same system of government that we always had because they did the change so slowly and gradually, and they never told the public. They never told us what was going on. The government was changed without the consent of the people, and it's very clear in the Declaration of Independence that they govern by the consent. Well, under our system of law, for them to alter or abolish or change anything in the Constitution, they have to go to the people. Congress can't do that. And in 1868, when this change really started, it went from 1868 through 1882 where the primary changes were done. Congress never once asked the people what they wanted, and they had no authority to move forward. We get our authority from the Declaration, the Holy Bible, and the Constitution to move forward, and that's what we have embraced. Now, about 30 years ago, a group of people, we call them patriots or sovereigns, whatever the term was at the time, began to study the law. Because we'd been dumbed down. We didn't know what was going on. We had no idea what had been done to the American people. But we began to study and read the law. And all of a sudden, things started showing up. It's all in there. It's all recorded, but it's hidden. But when we started doing thousands, and many people across the country started doing studies, all of a sudden, God gave the people an interest in the law. And it was part of a divine movement across this nation to wake up the people of America. All of this was orchestrated by God, folks. It was not orchestrated by us. God woke the people up, and they began to study, and they began to learn that the keys to their freedom was in the law already, and we just uncovered those keys, and we brought them out, and we began to use them. And we discovered that they never got our consent to do away with our republic. So everything that has been done since 1872 at the very latest, probably earlier than that, has been done without the consent of the people and therefore is unlawful. But that doesn't make it illegal. It is legal because we have given our implied consent. And implied consent works like this. If you're holding a cup of coffee and drinking a cup of coffee, and I walk up to you and I take that cup of coffee away from you and you don't say no or you don't protest, whose coffee is it? It's my coffee now. But if I try to take it away from you and you don't let me have it, you get to keep the coffee, right? That's the way implied consent works. The people did not say no. And so the government, in their legal system, decided that that is okay because they didn't protest. They didn't say no. Well, the people are standing up now by the thousands across America and joining with this republic and saying no. And now the legal system is in very much jeopardy because they cannot continue to operate without the consent of the people. And the people are not granting them that consent anymore. So they have no authority, and we have all the authority. Because this republic was sanctioned by Almighty God. It is recorded in history, and it has never been repealed.
Why is there a two-party system in America today?
Well, basically, the two-party system that we have today in Washington was created by the bankers. The bankers created the Democratic and Republican system of government to appear that the people really had a voice when they didn't. They created a controversy by two houses of Congress to entertain the people, basically, so that they could promote their agenda without the people realizing what they were doing. And their agenda was to steal the wealth of America. This has been going on for a long time. And the people today are in a system of slavery. The 14th Amendment did not free the slaves. It just made millions of more slaves. That's not what was promoted to the public, but that's what actually happened. And today, your personal property and the public property that we all own together as supposed to own as sovereigns has been taken and mortgaged even without our knowledge or our will or our consent, and it's not lawful to do that. In the Republic, you will receive your property back. You will actually be landowners again. You will not pay property taxes. You will not have income taxes. You will not have unlawful taxes. And the cost of living will go down considerably. Industry will explode in this nation, and the people will be blessed again.
The radiation rate is
1138, retract.
Did you know that when this country was founded, there was no income tax? And that property was owned by the individual without any capability of the government to take it away? Or did you know that the only way to commit a crime was by physically harming another man or woman or their property? And that the highest authority figure anywhere in the country was the local county sheriff? Or that men and women had more authority than the federal government? Or how about the fact that we have two American flags, one for wartime and one for peacetime? You see, many people realize there's something fundamentally off in our country, but nobody can seem to put their finger on exactly what it is. Why are things so much different than the founding structure of this country? Why does government have so much power? And how did we get here? Well, we're going to shine the light on exact schemes and deceptions that certain power elite high up in global corporations and governments around the world have been using over the last 160 years to pull the wool over the eyes of the men and women of the United States and every other country. Little by little, these power elite have secretly and unlawfully changed the roles of government and the roles of men and women living in this country in order to take the power away from us and give it to themselves. They have used the legal system to confuse Americans into thinking that government has more power over the people, when in reality it's the opposite is true. Men and women have power over the government. You see, all the power in this country is derived from the individual men and women living in it. Through mutual agreement, the men and women created the federal government to provide 18 services. Because these services were needed to be provided countrywide, which would have been handled more efficiently and more effectively at a federal entity as opposed to each state trying to accomplish them individually. This federal government would represent all of the 13 states collectively, and only be able to represent the states through the specified 18 powers delegated to them by the states. Just like a parent allowing a child to mow the lawn or clean the dishes, but at the same time not allowing them to drive the car or use the weapons in the safe. So how is it that our employee, the government, now tells us, the employer, what to do? It's the inability to answer that question due to altered education that gives government its perceived power. Over the last 160 years, these corrupt elite have slowly transitioned us from our original form of government over to a fraudulent form of government, while hoping none of us would notice. The only way these corrupt power elite can keep doing what they are doing is to keep Americans in the dark and not let us know the truth. Their power depends on us not knowing. Now, to be fair, most of the federal employees are unaware of this corruption. It's only the powerful few at the top that keep this system in place through deception. I know it seems daunting to go up against the big bad government, and even those that have the courage to do so don't usually know where to start. That's why we've resurrected the states' assemblies in all 50 states. The states' assemblies are the foundation of the original structure of this country's governing body, which is made up of the men and women of the land in this country. These assemblies were mothballed as we were unknowingly transitioned from our original form of government to a fraudulent form of government. Now that we have resurrected the assemblies, we can provide you with the non-violent approach and the tools needed to reverse these unlawful actions that were taken against you, so you can reclaim your natural rights and your sovereignty. But in order to correct the unlawful changes, we must first learn the schemes and deceptions used to get away with this unlawful activity. The state's assemblies will educate you how the legal system and seemingly harmless documents are used to fraudulently confuse and trick Americans into gradually giving up their freedoms and their liberty. We will open your eyes to exactly what fraud has been committed and also provide you with the means to easily reverse these fraudulent actions against you, so that you may live on this land as truly free men and women with the ability to self-govern as our founders intended. It's time we learn just how much has been stolen from us, how it's been done, and how we take back what's lawfully and rightfully ours. We spend a lot of time learning and complaining about all the things wrong with our government. That just makes us feel even more frustrated and hopeless. By transitioning back to your natural rights and sovereignty, you can spend that energy taking action and contributing towards the change that we all want and need. Since I've joined my state's assembly, I have formally notified our corrupt government institutions of my sovereignty and natural rights. I am no longer held accountable to arbitrary statutes and codes masquerading as laws, like the mandate to wear a mask or even something like jaywalking. I'm no longer required to pay income taxes, state or federal. I own my property outright with no requirement to pay property taxes and no capability of the government to take my property away. I no longer need to register my vehicle each year or need a license to use my vehicle to travel on the roadways. I am now confident in my power over Uncle Sam since I am his employer. And I now tell the federal government what they can and cannot do, and I hold them accountable to the Constitution that restricts their power. The corrupt power elite continue their effort to take more and more of our rights and liberties. Our founding fathers pledged their lives, their fortunes, and their sacred honor to create this republic so that we could live as free men and women, and it's our duty as Americans to protect that republic. As JFK and others have said, bad men need nothing more to compass their ends than for good men to stand by and do nothing. You see, the truth is on our side, the founding documents are on our side, and the numbers are on our side. So instead of hoping for a politician to fix things, let's take action. So I ask you, during this time when these bad men need nothing more than for you to stand by and do nothing, what will you do? And remember, there's only one organization with the lawful and legal standing to reclaim America for Americans, and that's the American States Assembly. We must support it like our lives depend upon it.